Okay, now we are officially recording, and it's 10:39, but for those of you who are watching later and see that the video is shorter than 90 minutes, we haven't started yet. We had a few stragglers getting on, and this is the first session we've done in the morning, so maybe that's it. I don't know. Also, I think the inundation of Zoom meeting invitations, people are just having to find the right one to get to at the right time. So we have some people on the call live, and I know that a lot of you let me know that you wouldn't be here, but you wanted to register anyway so you could get the recording. So we will just do as much as we can with those who are on the call. I have some items prepared, and I also want to give space for those who are on the call who have been able to use Switcher to be able to ask some questions. So let's just start centering in our heart space and opening our hearts to gratitude for the gift of technology, the gift of connection, and the gift of doing the work of ministry. For it, we are so blessed by this work, even as we are giving every effort, every energy into being a gift to the world. We are all so blessed. For this knowing and this truth, we give thanks. Amen. Okay, so I have put in the chat stream a link to what I'm calling a Switcher Studio makeshift manual. And really, there are 2 pages, maybe 1.5 pages right now, and I will continue to add things, and so there'll be different versions of this makeshift manual as we go. I'm trying to meet the needs for people who have different learning styles. In the first session, I provided videos that we kind of watched and stepped through for the visual learners, and now I have a document with words on it, so they're more of a step-by-step, and then you can go through the previous videos and watch as you're also reading the words. So it kind of feeds both sides of the brain as you will, and then we'll continue building this document based on what you need. I'm certainly not trying to present an end-all be-all of Switcher Studio. I think they would need to put me on staff if they were going to get something like that. But I want to have something for our Unity ministers to have to be able to move forward as you're increasing and improving your skills with Switcher. So I'm going to share my screen now, and you should see the document in front of you. Can I get a confirmation that you see the makeshift manual?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So this is the document I will include with the email and the recording. And really, I want to focus first on video chat. And then I have a couple of troubleshooting items that we can go through, especially focused on audio issues and tips. And then again, I want to open the floor. So let's start, before I go step by step through video chat, let's start with those on the call, what you did this last Sunday, and what went well, and what was challenging for you.
I ran a full meeting, a full service with, I pre-did all of the music, and then we only went live on the announcements and on the closing, like thank yous and stuff. We even recorded the talk early. That way I was able to check everything, and if anything did go wrong, we had those elements, and everything went really smoothly. I put in all of the slides with the lyrics and stuff with the music, so that I didn't have to think about that on Sunday morning in the heat of battle. That was awesome. And the audio went well this week because we got everybody to not be looking at themselves and stuff like that. And then the only thing that happened was we got booted off at one point, about 51 minutes in, and which I attributed to a lot of people being on or something, or my internet, I wasn't sure, but we came back on and finished the rest of the service.
Okay, beautiful. So you took a lot on, Val, and that's great. Bravo. Big round
Thanks.
of applause. And I
Thank
know
you.
from talking with you that some of those decisions were made based on how it went the week before. And so
Yes.
again, I always want to encourage people that if you feel like you've stepped out beyond your skill set or what your team's skill set is or what you can manage, don't hesitate to step back. You always want to be gracious and honoring and supportive to yourself, because then you will create the best product and live stream experience for your congregation and for your viewers. So by going to largely pre-recorded value, are able to relax about trying to bring different people in live, and what those, that opens you up to lots of issues with Wi-Fi connections, because it's not just yours, it's everybody else's. Also audio issues, and if there's anything weird that's happening in terms of the background or camera angle, you're live and you can't really stop that. So so bravo to you for making a shift, being willing to just change what you're doing so that you can take a step back and set your team up for success. And so I typed into the chat stream to put all of your assets in the control room ahead of time, and that includes pre-recorded videos, titles, lower thirds, anything that you want to use during your live stream. Make sure it's there ahead of time. And so in this case, you had your musicians sing and record songs, right? So there were videos, and
Yeah.
and then you did the talk. So Myra's sermon was recorded ahead of time, and I believe, if I remember, she was at the church for that, right?
She
So
did.
the
Yes.
church
And
was
I have everybody recording horizontally, so it's
nice.
cohesive.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was so much better.
And so then you did have live components though, right? So you did have the video chat going while you were running the service live, and that was for announcements and meditation. Is that right?
Announcements. And actually Saturday night, we decided to do the meditation.
Okay.
And because I wanted to add music underneath it. So I pulled his meditation then, and I added music underneath it in, just in iMovie. And it made all the difference as far as like the slickness and stuff. Right. But he had the same clothes on, his background was exactly the same,
So you had that continuity.
Yes. And he had it in his mind that he was there on Sunday morning. It was just he just really put himself there. So,
right. And just a comment about that. And if anyone was at my live stream, step-by-step for successful live stream tutorial, one thing I talked about there was there's this belief that we need to be live to have that energetic flow. And while I agree that there is something to that, I also believe wholeheartedly that, time is not real, and space is not, time and space are not real. And so, in the same way that you can watch a movie that was made 40 years ago and have an emotional impact and even a life-changing experience with that, how much more so can you with a pre-recorded spiritual experience, it has an intention built into it at the time of the recording of providing a meditation experience or a sermon or, even a reading of the daily word, that there's so much blessing that, that stays alive, and that is always in real time. So I just invite everyone to let go of this idea that if it's not live, it can't be a meaningful experience, or that it takes away from it somehow. And if you're really hung up on that, that's okay. And I would invite you to be more hung up on the opportunity to do it really well. And that may mean that you do a hybrid, like what Val's talking about. It may mean, I know some people are pre-recording the entire Sunday service, especially because Easter is this Sunday, and that's a big high pressure gig, if you will. And so why not, just take out as many variables and variances and opportunities for glitches, and to provide a seamless experience. I really have a hard time seeing anything wrong with that. So again, I encourage everyone to do what works well for you, to set yourself up for success, and also to think of how you can step into and through, especially with Switcher, as you're learning and honing your skills with it. You don't have to do all of the bells and whistles your first time out of the gate. Just pick a few things to focus on. And maybe you start with a pre-recorded experience. And when you're doing it live, you're just adding the titles to it or the lower thirds. That's all you're adding. So you're just watching the pre-recorded videos and adding, Reverend so-and-so, Reverend Elise Cowan. And then the next time, you're adding just a few more things, or one piece is live, but the rest is pre-recorded, just so you can really create a habit. And I would even say this, that it doesn't have to be every week you're doing something new and adding something new. You can allow yourself like a few weeks, 3-4 weeks, even a month of doing the same exact format, until you really get solid and comfortable and confident with it, and then start adding something. So you and your team are going to know the best pace in which to move forward and increase and grow the bells and whistles, adding bells and whistles to it, and just really let that be okay. It's not a contest, and the main point is to do it well, and to always be doing it better, right?
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're always doing something new. The new piece might be that next week you look more relaxed when you're on camera. That may be the new thing, and let that be the new thing. The next piece may be that you called your internet provider and upped your subscription so that you have a more appropriate speed for streaming. That may be the new thing, and therefore you didn't have any glitches or stops and starts, or you didn't get booted off. And let that be it. Maybe everything else was the same. So really just be gracious with yourself and realistic, and help yourself into this. I think it's, we're at a really important time in the idea of and development of virtual church, in that people are going to expect it to be done really well, but not today. And so as long as you are making improvements and getting better as we go, you will be part of that wave and part of that flow. And I will say, if you make a choice to not improve, you will get left behind, because so many other options are going to be available and are available now. And then, there was this, Val, can I ask you how long your service is?
Our service total was, it was an hour and 7 minutes this last week.
And has there been any conversation about shortening the live experience? Because is that about how long your regular, like, brick and mortar church experiences?
Yeah, sometimes a little longer than that. So this is shorter.
It is? Okay.
So far, I said it would be great if we could keep it at under an hour, because it is a different experience. I've shortened all the music, but
yeah. Well, and and that's a choice for everyone to make for themselves. But one thing I did also talk about on the live stream tutorial is, to not be afraid to make it shorter. It's, nobody's going to feel cheated, that unless you're providing like a broadcast level production, like television level production, it's probably actually detrimental to try to create. I'd be interested if you looked at your metrics, Val, because you can tell on Facebook how long people are staying tuned in, or for how long out of the hour and 15 minutes people are actually watching.
We had 55 solid.
That's amazing. Solid. Well, and so that gives you the feedback to keep going, that your community wants that, and somebody else might learn that, well, there are 55 people, but most of them watched for an average of 10 to 20 minutes, so it just, just watch those things and not be, and to not be afraid to adjust accordingly. It's not feedback that you aren't doing it well, or nobody wants to watch it. It's just, you want to adjust for your audience. Has anyone else, Elise or Cynthia, have you guys happened to look at your metrics to see how long people are watching?
No, I will look at I know who's watching, but I didn't see how long they were watching. But I know not everyone's watching the whole time.
Yeah, so if you go into Insights on your Facebook page, you'll be able to see that information, and it just is something to be aware of and to take into your plan as you go forward. And also, you can just do a poll, or you can just talk to some people and ask, or maybe have someone else ask, so that they aren't afraid to be honest about the feedback, and to say, I really, optimal for me is 20 minutes. Optimal for me is 40 minutes. And especially for those who are providing like a Zoom experience, a lot of ministries are doing the Facebook Live, but then there's a Zoom link where people can go in, and the congregation can actually see and talk to each other. Some of them are breaking out into small groups. So there's that fellowship time. And so, if people are enjoying that piece of connection as well, you might think of that whole kit and caboodle as the entire Sunday experience. So just to not be afraid to adjust and to let go of the idea of basing it upon the idea of walking into a brick and mortar building, that this is a different experience. And you might invite people. I know I've heard some people for Easter Sunday have invited their congregants to wear an Easter bonnet and take a picture and post it in the comments. So there's this sort of, you're amping up, again, without necessarily changing anything else you're doing, you're amping up the experience that you're providing. You could do like a breakfast Sunday or a brunch, Sunday brunch, where you invite people to, be eating during the service or breaking bread together. And so even though everyone is separate, they're having a similar experience in a different way. So that's not about Switcher. I don't want to get too far off topic, but thank you for that. Elise, how did it go for you on Sunday? I know you're using Switcher. If you're there, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I had to unmute. I had some technical issues. I wanted to share my my MacBook screen so that I could play a video that one of my members created as a virtual hug to everyone. It was a song, "The Face of God" by Karen Drucker, and she had taken it and made a video putting pictures of all of us together, and I could not connect. When I first turned on Switcher, I was able to connect to my both of my cameras on my MacBook, but when it came time to do it, I couldn't. And I actually was able to play the video by using my phone to show my screen, but it was it was kind of crazy. That was my biggest issue. Other than that, everything went well.
So you had to problem solve that in real time while you were live?
Yes.
Well, good job for you finding that share screen in Switcher.
Well, I couldn't share screen because it would connect. It was connected when I first started Switcher, but when it came time for me to show the video, I had to actually use my phone camera to show my screen.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, well, there is an option to share your screen on your device, but you know what? And now that I think about it, I'm not sure you can do that from the main Switcher. That might have to be from that's from like a remote camera. You would still need a second device. Otherwise, it takes you out of the app. But okay, but still you found a solution, and which was to just use your phone. So you took your phone and just pointed it at your laptop screen.
Yes.
Is that right? Or iPad. Okay. Excellent. Well, good job. So did anything change from the time when you were connected before to after? Like, did you close out of the app?
I think I did, actually, because I hadn't started the live stream yet, but I had started the live chat, and I realized that I had not airplane mode. Yeah. And so, yes, I did get out of the app. Yeah. And so I could airplane mode and do not disturb.
Okay, so this is really good. This is a really good example. So when you close the app, then your app left the chat room, but you probably still saw yourself on your laptop in your chat room.
I could, from that point, when I got back on the app, on the Switcher app, it was showing only my phone camera. Yeah. And I thought it was recording from my phone camera, which I had propped up in front of my laptop screen. But when I went back to review the video, it was actually using my laptop camera, even though it wasn't on my Switcher app, and I couldn't connect to it.
That's interesting. So what you would want to do is, if you get out of the app of the switch as a Switcher, when you get back on as Switcher, you need to go in and join the chat room, and that's what shows your chat room in your control room. So that would be the first thing. But way to go, problem solving on the spot and doing what needed to be done, right, to meet your goal.
It worked out fine. Actually, it worked out a lot better than it seemed to be working out while I was doing it.
Right. All that like, you know, and, you know, so probably like, a safer way to do that would be to have the actual video file in your control room, because then it's already there.
I couldn't get it to upload for whatever reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my friend, one of my people, the person that bought the Switcher account, she uploaded the video on her end, but it didn't show up on my end.
Right.
What
Okay.
she uploaded wasn't there.
So what you want to do, if it's in her switcher, so she's looking at her device. I'm looking down because I've got mine open. So she's looking at her device as switcher. In order to share it, what you would have to do is you would choose select. So down in the bottom corner, you would choose select, and then and that opens up those bubbles on each of the files, and you would choose the one that you want to do something with. So I've got this file selected, and then here, if I upload to the cloud right there, then that would put it in my switcher cloud. Then any device that logs into that account can pull it from the switcher cloud by using this blue circle with the plus, and you go into switcher cloud, and that's going to show you all of the files that have been stored in the cloud, in your switcher cloud. And every account comes with a switcher cloud, so that becomes your place to store your assets that you might be reusing or sharing, so that if she has it and you don't, she can save it there and you'll be able to access it later and download it. So you might intuitively expect that if she puts it in the control room, that when you log in on your device, it will be in the control room, but the control room is specific to the device. So even if you have your laptop, or excuse me, your iPad and your iPhone in front of you, and they're both yours, and you log into the apps, they're still going to have completely different control rooms, because those are on the device itself, but you have the shared space of the cloud. And so you can sort of pass files back and forth by putting them into the switcher cloud. And a note about that, you can put files into the cloud on the browser by logging into switcherstudio.com in your browser, or on your device through the app. With the exception of videos, they can only be uploaded to the switcher cloud by being on the app on your device. Okay, so you can put photos in on your computer through the browser, but videos at this point in time, April 9th, 2020, in the year 2020, you can only do it through the app. Okay, good. Well,
the problem, yes, I'm having other technical difficulties with the iCloud. I can't log into it. Keeps telling me my password is wrong, but that's another issue outside of Switcher. I'll figure that out.
Yeah, well, because I'm not talking about the iCloud. I'm talking about the switcher cloud.
Right.
And that's in the app. But yeah, that is a separate thing. And you can also access, you can share files through your Google Drive or Dropbox. Dropbox works really well. Google Drive also works really well with Switcher. So if someone doesn't have access to your Switcher cloud, to your account, they can share something with you on Google or Dropbox, and you can also bring it into your Switcher app that way.
Yeah.
And then you can put it into your cloud if you need to file share in those ways. So those are good file sharing, problem solving. We touched a little bit on Wi-Fi. I want to say a little bit more about that. If it's possible, like for your laptop or desktop that you're going to use the video chat for, to hardwire into your Ethernet, that would be ideal, so that you're not competing on your own network with your device that is running the switcher, if you are also the one running switcher, or if you have multiple cameras. And I would give a call if you aren't sure what your internet account speed is. I would give your provider a call and just tell them that you are streaming a lot of video games. Say it like that, then they will make sure you have the proper account for that and the proper speed. I know Joanne, I checked with Joanne Roden, because I watched her live stream, and it was freezing, and it was getting stuck. And then I saw later that she shared in the ministers group that she was having, the provider was having issues. And so they're doing a different workaround where they're going to record it and then stream it live through Boxcast. So I'd asked her to kind of share that. And let's see, yeah, it was her Wi-Fi provider that was causing that issue. And so you just want to make sure that you can take the steps as much as you can. You can't control what happens in real time. I did have someone else who had an issue with electricity, and their device, their laptop, was not plugged into a grounded outlet. And so there was this static that was happening every time she would talk. And when we listened to it, I was like, that's electricity. There's not, if she had a microphone plugged into her laptop, I might have thought that it was that, but because it was definitely an electricity sound anyway. Come to find out, she wasn't plugged into a grounded outlet. And so sometimes she sounded fine and other times not. It just depended what else was coming across that line. So those are the kinds of steps you can take. Make sure that you're plugged into a grounded outlet. Make sure that your Wi-Fi is going to be supportive to the activity that you're doing on it. Make sure, if you can, hardwire into the internet, that you can do that. And those of you who are using Mevo, which I think it was Carla, right? And she had to leave, but she'll listen to the recording. So Carla, those of you who are using Mevo, remember that your Mevo cameras can be hardwired into Ethernet. So if you open the back flap, you'll see the port there that you can plug those in. So those of you who are doing that, I really encourage you as much as possible, well, anybody, to hardwire into the internet whenever possible. And then that way, if you also have a secondary device that's running Wi-Fi, you won't be competing internally for that. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions? Cynthia, you're on. Did you have anything you wanted to share or talk about?
No, we haven't started using Switcher yet. We did a combo of Facebook Live and Zoom, and so that's why I'm listening carefully. Yeah. And it looks like I'll be able to try it. Thank you.
Awesome.
And yeah. I went on the last class you did, which was very helpful.
Okay, thank you. Well, and I think that's great too, just sort of like taking notes and being in it. And I would encourage you, as you start, to do some practice runs. And in the live stream, we talked about that, like practice. So make an announcement or do a live prayer, or, don't read the daily word, but you can talk about the daily word, because that's proprietary information. And I have to say that because of my employment. So yeah, you can't read the daily word live, but you can talk about the daily word, and you can share the affirmation, and you can, at dailyword.com, add that to the post. But during your Sunday, now with the exception of your Sundays, your Sunday services, you can do the of the daily word, but outside of that, you can't make. So if it's in the context of your service, yes, you can do that. But think of something else, an announcement or a fun little song. Ann Tabor and her husband sang a song, on Sunday night, and that's just allowing yourself to practice. Also with Switcher, what I love being able to do is when you go to output of where you're sending the live feed to, is to choose none. That way it's not going live anywhere, but it's recording, and you can do a sound check. You can do a photo check. You can, image check, and, lighting and all of those things. You could practice bringing video chat in, and it's recording, but it's not going anywhere. So pro tip, you can also, that's one very easy way you can do your pre-recorded video, is you can create it yourself in Switcher. So you don't have to use anything else. For those of you who have the actual physical app logged into that account. So, so that being said, let's go ahead and run through what I prepared for you, the document on video chat. And I'm just going to take step by step to, help make that flow easier, because I think it can really add to the experience that you're providing, and it can be a glitchy experience if you aren't really confident about it. So the first part of this, I really just copy pasted from the website and just added a few of my own ideas and notes to it. So the video chat extension lets you bring in a remote caller as a video source. So and that's how they'll say, like on the Switcher commercials, anybody anywhere can come in. Well, you have to have the subscription level, though, of course, that allows you to have video chat, and it depends on how many people according to the level of your subscription determines how many people you can bring in by video chat. And then you also have to join in, at whoever the switcher is also has to be joined into the chat room, which we just had an example with Elise, where when she logged out of the app and came back in, she didn't then join back into the chat room. So she lost that, even though the chat room was launched and running. So you don't have to have any special browser or downloads anyway. You do want to use Chrome if you are on PC, and I use Chrome even on my Mac, on my MacBook, but you can use Safari if you're on like an iPhone or iPad. Safari will work fine. So you will need one device for the chat room and one device for the switcher if you are the one that's being the switcher, or if somebody in the same room as you is operating as a switcher. So you can't be in the chat room. Well, let me say that differently. If you want to run your audio separately and to be able to have that open, you need to run it separately than the switcher, but you can and have to also be joined in as a switcher. Maybe I need to change how that's worded. So to start a new video chat, you're going to log into switcherstudio.com, click the video chat, which is in the left column under my dashboard, and then you just follow. You can copy the video chat link, send it to someone, and that will invite them, and you have your own unique chat room. So that link stays the same. So you can ask that person if they're going to be coming in often to bookmark it or to save it somewhere so that they can always access that. When you send it to your guest, if you send it, for example, into Facebook Messenger and they open it up on their phone or tablet, it will open it up in the Facebook app. You don't want that. You want them to copy paste it into a browser, so into Safari or into Chrome. And if they're on a desktop, it will naturally open up in the browser or laptop. So, but just make that note that they should copy that into the URL window. And so they can join again from any device that has a camera and a microphone on it. Okay, so this is a great way that, you know, if you have someone who doesn't have a Mac device, they can still come in onto your chat. Then you're going to click Launch Video Chat, which will be on your screen right underneath the link. And that will open up a new window, and you'll select your camera, your mic, and your speakers. And some of you might think, well, there's only one camera on my laptop, so why is it letting me choose that? Well, because you might have another camera. You might have one plugged in, or you might have, for example, like the Snap Filter app would be another camera that you can use. Hi, somebody just joined us. Welcome, welcome. We're going, we just started reviewing how to use video chat, Candace, so join on in. So you'll select the camera and then your microphone. You might just be using your built-in mic, or you might have one plugged in like I do right now. So you'll choose the correct microphone and the speakers, which you might have headphones plugged in, or you might have just your built-in speakers or something else connected. And then type in your name. That is required. You have to have your name, and that's so that the switcher knows who is who. And then as a switcher, you'll see your guests join in. So if you're the one who's launched the chat room, you're the account holder, you will see your guests as they join in. In the lower left corner of your screen, you will see the screen icon, and you can use that to share your screen. You can also toggle on and off your camera and your mic. So if you don't need to be on camera, you can just take that off if you don't want to be. And same with the mic. If you need to mute, you can do that. And then you can also flip your camera if you're on a device that the camera flips. But if you're on a laptop and you only have one camera, like on the front side, not on the back side, it will actually toggle through the other camera options. So if you just experiment with that. So if you chose one camera when you were on that launch screen and you want to change your mind about it, like you want to go ahead and put a snap filter up, you can toggle through it with that little icon that has the camera with the circle. Okay, so note that the device operating as a switcher needs to join in the chat room as well and toggle on the show guests as sources. And then from the chat room screen, the switcher can mute guests as desired. Okay, so the guests can mute themselves on their chat screen in the chat room, but the switcher has the ultimate power to mute or unmute guests. And what I suggest, and it's on here somewhere, that if you have somebody regularly, you train them to manage their own mute. But if you have like a guest, someone who's a guest once in a while, then I would just take care of that for them and not ask them to learn that, because you'll have more consistency and be able to rely on someone who's more regular. And it's okay to expect people who are going to be on regularly to learn how to do that. Okay. Any questions thus far? Has anyone tried this and had any problems just with what we've talked about right now, just getting connected into the chat room?
No, just if you come off, you know, you have to, if something, you get booted off for any reason, or you click out of your thing, it's like starting over. You have to just get them all back on with the video chat. And I'm controlling all the mutes.
Are you?
Because, yeah, I just, yeah.
And so you're able, even when it's running live and recording and going out into the world, you're going into the chat room on your switcher device.
Yes.
And toggling people on and off.
Yes. And I used a yellow piece of paper, a green piece of paper, and a red piece of paper. So the red was just a backup for stop if I've gone to something else, you know, and the yellow meant I've turned your mic on. So I did that like 5 to 10 seconds prior to when it was going to be their time. And then when I actually physically went to them, I put up a yellow piece of paper.
Okay. So you're using signs. Now, let me say this. And part of the reason she's doing that is if you see the next line where it says warning, and I've highlighted it in red, your video chat guest audio will always be on unless they are muted, right? So even if you are showing something else or someone else on screen, if you have a slide up or someone else, a pre-recorded video, that audio feed will always be coming in from the chat room, which is why you want to use the mute. Now, I will say this, if the switcher mutes themselves, so Val, if you have yourself muted in the switcher app, that won't feed into the live, so you can actually still talk to them through your laptop or wherever you're in the video chat, and they can hear you.
Yes, that didn't work.
Okay.
They just something. It was a mental thing for them.
Like they're not listening.
They're not listening. So they were looking at their They were looking at their camera and kind of shut down from the talking. But once they're done with, So somehow the picture, the color going through.
Red light, green light.
Yeah, it was a mental thing for them that it worked.
That's
and I was going to say, but what was nice then, if I could control the muting of what's going live, I could mute everybody and then we could talk while other things were going on.
Yes. Wonderful.
And that was great.
Yes. Yeah. So if it's muted in the switcher app, it will not go into the live. So that's a separate toggle than what each person is doing on their screen. Okay.
Yes. That was my question. If they did the mute on theirs, would then we not be able to hear them on the chat?
That is correct. So, okay. But if the switcher mutes them, you can still keep it live on the chat so that you can still hear each other, but it's not going to the feed. And the way to always check that is above your live display, there is an audio meter, and you'll see it's a little bar that lights up green, and you'll be able to see if it's getting a feed there. So what you want to do is before you go live is test that and make sure that you're muting in all of the right places and just speak. And if that goes, then it's getting some kind of signal. You don't want to do it while you're playing a pre-recorded video, because if you're feeding anything to that live display, it's going to register anything with audio. It'll register that audio, and it'll be harder to tell if it's someone's voice or that specific video that's going through.
Excellent. Yeah.
So it doesn't have itemized audio feed meters. It's just the main audio meter.
Yeah, so that was a big discovery for me last week. You helped me with that because that was our big mistake on the first week.
Yeah. And I really like your problem solving for, the fact that people weren't listening. And that's the thing, as when you have people who aren't used to engaging technology this way, is you might have to think a little outside of the box, even though you're literally saying to them, okay, you're on in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or you're going to be on next. You know, they're focused on being on, and whether they look good, or, you know, or just, you know, and their brain is not even thinking. And I'm sure maybe even some of you are like, you know, like Elise was like, I thought I figured out how to do it, and it didn't feel like it was great in the moment, but actually later it didn't look that bad, because your mind is so hyper focused that it's hard to take in information unless it's someone who's really used to doing live performance or presentation. So really good at thinking of the color cues and holding those up in the camera, so people had that. Be great if you had like a buzzer or something, right? Okay.
Right.
So always really assess that mute button and what is coming into the live display. Okay, and then a pro tip, and I already mentioned this, is to train people who are coming in regularly to be able to mute and to know where their mute is on their microphone, and also their camera off. Like if they need to do something, if they're changing a shirt, they can go ahead and turn that camera off right there, and you know, do a costume change or whatever and come back on. So just to let people know that it's there. If they're just occasional or one time, you know, I would keep the switcher as the one doing that, so that you have consistency and someone doesn't get it reversed in their mind. So if it's blue, it is mute. And if it's not blue, then it's on, it's live. Okay. And then from the control room, the switcher will see all video chat guests in the control room, and will be in the control room themselves. And the audio meter, which I talked about above the live display, would demonstrate that the switcher is receiving audio. So let me go ahead and open mine, and I'll just put it into the camera. And you can see right there, that is the audio meter. This is the live display. So that's what's live, and that's the audio meter. Boom.
Your screen is still up. Can you show your
thing? A little side chat.
It's small.
Okay, let me go ahead and do that. There we go. So if I stop talking, you'll see that meter right there go down.
Yeah. Okay.
And then when I start talking, it goes up again. So it's not going to stop completely because there's background noise. It's getting the dog barking, but then when I talk, you see it go up. So here, I can move in front of the camera a little bit. There we go. So it's using the back camera on my phone. And then if I were to stop talking, but I can put Patricia on. So we don't hear anything, but Patricia's talking, so that audio is getting a feed, an audio feed. That's why you want to make sure nothing is playing while you're testing that, to see if anything's coming in. And just to show people, I don't have anyone in my chat room, but this is the chat room. I just went to the chat room. There's the chat icon. I joined the room, and yeah, well, I don't have any guests, but in here, that little blue mic icon, that will appear next to everyone's name, and that's where you mute. And then if you hit mute on your own, then you mute yourself as a switcher if you just want to take audio from your laptop. Like I said, I have a microphone plugged into my laptop, and that's where I want the audio to come from. So I mute this so it's not also coming into my phone if I'm running the switcher. Okay, so that's where I'm tracking my audio and where it's coming in. Okay?
I had a big problem with that. The first week I used Switcher because I couldn't figure out my microphone on my MacBook. And oh gosh, it was 45 minutes into my service when I realized that my microphone was off on my phone. And I turned it on, and then it created an echo, yes, which I couldn't hear. Yep. And everybody kept chatting to me, stop, don't take it off, don't do it. But I couldn't see it. But it was lesson learned.
Yeah, it is. And that, and that's why we want to test everything ahead of time. And I love using that record function to test. So, so I'm in Switcher. And when you go to your out, like where it's going to go, you tap that and choose none. And then it's going to record it to the device, and it's not going to live cast it anywhere. And you can run as many tests as you want and play it back. And it'll save it in your recorded media folder, so you can go back to it and look. And what I usually do when I'm doing those tests, because sometimes I run several back to back, is the words I use when I'm testing are describing what I'm doing. So this is a test with my laptop microphone and video chat, and I think that my Switcher Studio app is on mute, but I'm testing that. So I'll literally say all of that as my test, so that when I listen back to it, later, I know what I was testing for. Otherwise, I have no idea. And then I'll do the next one. Now I'm testing that I have a new microphone connected to my laptop, and I have the Switcher Studio app microphone on, and I want to hear what that sounds like, and it's going to sound terrible. And then you stop and then you listen to that video, and you'll see that it sounds terrible, just like what you're talking about. Because and that's why, if you've noticed, when you open the Switcher app and you are talking or playing a pre-recorded video, you can't hear it unless you have your headphones plugged in. It's so that it doesn't pick up the audio that it's playing out, pick it back up, and that would create a feedback loop into the Switcher device, exactly what we're talking about. So if the phone is getting audio sent out, but the microphone is picking that back up and sending it into, on top of the fact that it's already pulling that audio feed in, that's what creates the feedback. And that's exactly what was happening with you, Elise, is that your video chat had the audio, and then your phone had the audio, and it's not going to be quiet at the same time. And so it's going to be this terrible echo, like what you described. So you always want to test that. And I'll say what I do, Elise, and you can decide what sounds best by testing, is I take the audio from my chat room, but I take the video from my Switcher device. Only if I have it like set up on a tripod or something, I'll take the video there. And the reason I do that is because I'm using a microphone plugged in to get that better audio quality. And it creates a delay if I take the video in from the chat. The only way to fix that is to use the video from my actual device, but the audio, the better audio quality from my chat room. So that's might be a little more confusing. And if that confuses you, don't worry about it right now. But just know that that's also a problem solved. That if you're looking at and your words are off, the sound is off from the picture, that might be one way to solve it. You might be using an external mic and it's just not syncing correctly. And there's definitely a workaround for that. So moral of the story is test, test, test. And then when you do it live, do exactly what you did during the test. Don't change anything, not one little thing, because then you're not doing what the test showed. Okay? Any other thoughts or questions?
That's all good.
Okay. Yeah. And I would just invite everyone to go back about 5 minutes and listen to everything I just said it about 3 more times. And because I know it's a little confusing to follow, but once you get it, it makes sense and you'll be able to follow. You know, so such a big part of troubleshooting with anything audio and video or tech related is, I think of it as following the chords. You know, just start with the outlet and follow it to whatever it's plugged into, and you know, and just keep going through. You're following all of the connections, and then you'll discover for yourself probably where a glitch is happening. But we're doing this so that you don't have to do all of that work and figuring it out on your own. Let me help you with some of that. So from the control room, so we just did the pro tip, and then from the control room, so whoever's running as switcher, which I think for most of us, it's the people on this call, the switcher will see all video chat guests in the control room, and the audio meter above the live display will demonstrate that the switcher is receiving audio. Okay, and so we just talked about that, but I want you to know that from the control room. Now, whether you hear it or not will depend on whether you have headphones plugged in. But you will see the little live go. I rarely have headphones plugged in. I just trust that audio meter, and because I know how to read them, because that's my profession. But if you don't, and if you're nervous, you might go ahead and plug some headphones in. And what you can do is, you know, it comes standard with all iPhones and iPads, I think. I'm not sure if the iPads come with them, are the earbuds with the little microphone on them for talking. Here we go. Mine are a mess, as you can see. So you've got that, and you can use that as your microphone and your listening device as well if you need to. I also have, let me stop sharing screen so you can see, since I'm doing a little show and tell. I also have this, which plugs into my iDevice. That's the Lightning. And that has a mini jack like the old style, but also I have some microphones that have that kind of jack. And then on the side, it has the Lightning. So I can still plug my earbuds in there and a different microphone into there, or vice versa. There are microphones that have the Lightning, and then if I want to do headphones there. So you can still have some options of what you want to use on the device. and it'll do that listening. Now, what will be confusing to you if you do all of your talking and listening there is that you will hear yourself in your ears as you're talking, and there'll be a slight delay. It doesn't record that way, but that's what you're hearing when you're monitoring. So you might think about whether you want to do that. That's primarily the reason I don't. Also, I don't like the look, since I'm the one that's on camera usually, I don't like the look of having headphones on. If I'm not on camera, then there's no reason for me to worry about the audio. So that's why I make those choices. I want to check the chat. Oh, Elise says that drives me crazy. Yes, when you have that delay and you're hearing yourself talk, it's really hard to be in rhythm, especially for me, like in meditation. Like I'm trying to find a rhythm with the music, and I've got this, and it just throws me off. So I don't do that.
Are you saying that when you could hear what's going out live if you have headphones on?
Yes.
Okay.
And so for those of you using pre-recorded video, Val, that's a big thing. And I think what I've told you before is you watch the bar. So I've got my camera on, so I'll open this up again. And I'll play poor Patricia. I should let her know that I'm using her in my tutorials because she tends to be the last one I've sent live. But you'll see, so I'm playing Patricia's video. We'll just pretend this is going live somewhere. And if you look right here, there's a yellow bar that's going across, and it's moving very slowly, but it's going across to show progress. And so that's how you would know if the video is done. And you know that you're getting audio from it here. So I can't hear anything unless I plug the headphones in, but I can see that she's talking. I can see the audio. It's definitely getting audio feed. And then I can just watch for timing on that. Now, if I were going to add graphics at a specific time, I would need to know what she's saying. So I'd go ahead and plug in headphones, and I can hear and follow along with all of that. Okay. And otherwise, what I do is I just kind of guess, because I haven't had anything specific, but I'll put her name up for a little while. So I'll go ahead and do the title card there, and that puts her name up. And then after a little while, I'll take it off, and maybe I'll put put the UWM website up. So that goes up over the top there, and I'll leave that up for a little while. So if you watched this last Monday at 2:00, she did a live. I was running it, and that's kind of what we're looking at right now. And you'll kind of see what I did there. I will note that since I'm talking about that, I learned something new, which is that if you do a live event on Facebook, if you create the event through the Switcher app, you can set the time, and it'll post it right onto your timeline. And it brings it defaults to your cover photo that's on your Facebook page. Once you create that and it goes on, you can change that image. And then when it comes time, so say Sunday morning at 10:00, you'll see the countdown. The countdown will start on the Facebook timeline, and you can start recording at any time. You can hit live in Switcher at any time, and it won't go live until that designated time. However, when the video ends and buffers in Switcher and posts it, it will include everything that you recorded, even if it wasn't showing live. So if you go watch Patricia's video, there is about 1 minute of this opening slate, which I won't show it to you, but I had a graphic of her with her photo, and I had this like broadcast will begin shortly and all of that, which in real time, if you were watching, there was maybe 30 seconds of that, but I had already started recording so that I wouldn't forget to do that. And it included that whole lead time. So there was, there's 1 minute of dead time basically before it starts, but it does show the graphic because I had that selected. But it's just a long time. And it was not what I intended. So learn from my mistakes if you will. We're going to go back to the document that I'm sharing with you because we're almost through it. So from the control room, okay, audio options. And I may have covered this because we've talked a lot about audio, but the switcher might opt, so whoever's acting as the switcher might opt to toggle mic to mute if they won't be part of the live recording. Yes, we did say this. Chat guests will still hear the switcher, but the switcher's voice will not feed to the live recording. So I'm always checking and double checking that. Like when sometimes I bring people in for the Silent Unity 11 o'clock prayer service. I'll bring them in live. I don't want to be part of that. And your audio feed is always on through the chat room. But I will just mute that, and I only use it to be able, I stay on screen with the guest in the video chat so that they can see me and they feel like they're not alone. I think of it in my mind as like a green room, and I'm just hanging out there and as the backstage support person. But I don't want any of my voice to be, I don't want anyone else to know that I'm there, because it just, to the average viewer, feels like they're live from Florida or live from Arizona or wherever they are from their home. And they are, but they don't know necessarily that I'm on the call with them. Okay, and so this is just an invitation to, of course, I've asked you all to subscribe to my YouTube page, which I think has a total of like 3 or 4 videos on it now, maybe one more after today, because it's a channel I just started. But you can also, I have subscribed to, and I invite you to subscribe to Switcher Studio on YouTube, because I have tons of tutorials, and this specific link is for video chat, which you'll learn pretty much everything I just said. I think I cover a little bit more, but they might say it differently in a way that makes sense to you too. So always go to that. Audio information. And I just want to generally talk about always following best practices for audio quality, and for that to reduce background noises and hum. So right now I have 2 windows open. I'm on my sun porch, which is completely glassed in. And I have 2 windows open because I love the sound of the birds. When I've listened back to recordings, I think it sounds very pleasant. Now, if the blue jay shows up every so often, you'll get a squawker, right? And then it may be not so pleasant, but I'm aware of that. One Sunday I learned the hard way that if it's raining, it sounds, it's unpleasant. It sounds like it's hitting metal, which is, it's not a metal rooftop, but it has that sound effect. So I had to move quickly indoors. So be aware if, and then when I moved indoors, I had to listen for the refrigerator because I wasn't far from that. You want to listen to your HVAC system, and just have an idea if there's anything, if there's another computer that's in the same room and it has a loud fan, or if there's a TV that's getting picked up by your microphone. And that all has to do with testing. And you can test all of that again in Switcher by sending it to none and hitting record, and you create your own test video. So always be aware of while you're testing what background noises are, but then think about Sunday mornings and during your services, like, do your neighbors mow during that time? And maybe have a conversation because you just not mow during church, you know, something like that. I have somebody who loves to mow right now during my 11 o'clock Unity Online radio show. And so I know as it gets hotter, she's going to start mowing earlier, but right now she's out there right about the time I'm having my show. So, so just have the awareness so you can plan for that. And position yourself properly to the microphone. So if you are speaking into an actual mic, this is a long boom mic, so I don't have to be near it for it to be picked up. And sorry if I just made some mic noise by picking it up. But if I did have, like, I also have a broadcast mic, you know, you want to be talking kind of over it, not directly into it, so it doesn't catch those popping P's or, you know, hissing S's. Just be positioned properly to whatever microphone you have. And if you're using your built-in mic that's on a laptop or on your device, you just want to make sure that you're projecting, and you don't have to necessarily lean into it. You know, you can sit, it's going to be a pretty good mic in terms of picking up from wherever you're seated or standing if you are. But just be sure you're projecting, because it's not going to turn your voice up, right? So it can only take the signal that you give it, the signal being your voice. So, you know, use your stage voice, if you will, and give it something to work with, okay? And that's projection. Avoid loud clothing. And if you're wearing a clip-on mic, and you know this from, you know, being in a church, and you touch, you know, anywhere near the mic, it's going to make a loud noise into the microphone, or if you have a dangling necklace. But even if you talk a lot with your hands, like clearly I do, you know, I'm not going to be wearing a lot of jangling bracelets, because those kinds of noises will really peak in the microphone and compete, and they'll be louder in the mic than they are in real life. And because our ears and our brains are used to tuning that out, but the microphone doesn't have that kind of brain. So it's picking those noises up and actually elevating them. And your chair, if you're seated, check your chair, make sure it doesn't squeak or making any kind of unwanted noises. Okay, Val, were you raising your hand?
I was raising my hand.
Yes, Val.
So can you adjust the audio by asset?
Oh, that's a great question. Within Switcher, no, it's going to, there's no like individual. So you need to create that in the original file before you bring it into Switcher. That's a great question.
Okay. Yeah.
And I always add the caveat at this time, because apps are always developing and changing. So if you watch this in a year, that may have a different answer. But right now, you need to. So if you're bringing, like, I'm thinking meditation music, you want to test that and make sure that it's not competing with the voice.
Yeah, I was thinking about different people speak or record and they're quieter, like our opening prayers have been really low. I would love to crank that volume up a little bit.
You know what I would do with that, and you guys will all have this opportunity as you gain more experience and have more instances of this, is have everyone watch the entire recording when it's done. Like, most of them are probably watching it in real time, but have them, and that's one experience, but have them go back later and watch it again and tell them specifically what you want them to watch for. And that's one thing, is if you're getting someone who's always sending a video in and it's a lower volume than everyone else, point that out so that, and they can hear the difference, and then they'll learn. And it may be that they're standing way too far away from their device, or it may be that they're turned this way and they're trying to be very prayerful and mindful, and the voice and let them know how that doesn't carry, because they don't have a microphone in their mouth, like in their face. So it will demonstrate that. And then if you can find someone who does it really well, or even if it's just someone else in the recording, and show them, I want you to project more like this, and, good posture. I didn't write this down, but, good posture, voice, asking people to warm their voices up just like they would before they would go on stage, so to speak, before they get up. I do, like, even this morning, knowing I was going to do this at 10:30, I got up very, extra early and drank lots of water and did my shower early so I could get that, hot steam in my, it's allergy season here in the Midwest. So, taking care to do those kinds of things. And that's all about taking care of vocal cords and nasal passages, really, which create that sound, right? So you want to do those things and create those habits. I also sang some songs, did some dance. So I'd, be kind of loose and have my, in posture, and then also have my voice warmed up. So I wasn't coming in with a morning voice that hadn't been used, which, especially if you're living alone right now, with all of us being, sheltering in place, you might not be talking as much as you normally do by any certain time of day, especially by whatever your church hour is. You might not have talked to anyone, where normally by the time church starts, you've probably talked to, dozens of people. So get that voice warmed up, and that will help. But practice, test, and evaluate. That's, the other piece, is ask people to evaluate. Always avoid tapping or touching the mic or device with the mic. So if I'm doing this, can you hear that? I'm rubbing my trackpad, which you might not hear it here, but I have heard it on Switcher. It will pick it up from my laptop if I'm just running my fingers on my trackpad. If you're tapping on your phone, the mic will pick that up. So just be really mindful of those noises.
I have noticed on Switcher, like Paul's breathing, man, it was so loud.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ask people to be aware. So if they're breathing, and this even happens for those of you who wear the microphones, like on a regular Sunday, like a regular Sunday, back in the olden days when you're at your church and you have a headset mic, you're probably not using that connected to your computer. Some of you might be, but most of you are probably not. But if it's positioned in just the right place, it might catch some air noise from your nose. And that's like, so just in the same way, you want to be mindful that you aren't making any of those kinds of, mouth noises or breathing noises that are being picked up by your microphone. So this is why we practice and evaluate. So it's one thing to do it, but then you have to listen back. All right. Control room audio monitoring. Okay. So to hear the control room audio, I've said this a few times already, but good to itemize it out. Connect headphones to the switcher device. You might opt for headphone with mic, or use an adapter to attach both mic and headphones, which I showed you a couple examples of those. Not necessary, but some of you might like it. So, and also some of you might think something's wrong if you're in the control room and you can't hear any of the audio. That's built in to protect that feedback loop that I described. So that's actually a really nice feature in the app, that you don't have to constantly be aware of that. It kind of protects you from that. So I just have 4 troubleshooting items, and believe me, I know there are a lot more than 4, but I'm developing all of this in real time as well. And, you know, I want to add things that are useful to you, helpful to you. And of course, always to tell you and remind you that Switcher Studio has their own collection of YouTube videos that will be helpful. But here are some issues that I've heard several times, or at least a couple of times, or I've experienced myself. So before launching the video chat on a desktop or laptop, always check the sound settings to be sure the correct mic and speakers are set. Okay, so before you or anybody else launches that video chat, always check. And to do that on a Mac, click on the Apple icon in the top left corner of your screen, click System Preferences, click Sound, click Output for speaker settings, and Input for mic settings. And so you want to do that, like even when I started this Zoom call, before I hit record, I hadn't done that, and I plugged in my external microphone, but I had to open up that, and then I went into Zoom and told Zoom to use also that external microphone. So you always want to make sure that you are telling your computer or your device what you want it to be drawing from and where you want to send the audio out. Sometimes it automates for you and sometimes it doesn't, especially I've noticed with my MacBook on external headphones. So if I plug headphones into my MacBook, sometimes it will automatically flip to those and sometimes it won't. So I can have headphones in and still be hearing audio out from my speakers. And in part, that's because I use like video editing and audio editing software and have that open. And those, you can make changes, but they won't change intuitively because people who are working like that are always, you know, hitting pause, so to speak. Anyway, so you always want to make sure your computer is set to receive and send sound where you want it. And then you can adapt those settings in Switcher and make sure that those options are available to you before you get into the chat room. Okay. In the control room, this is number 2, in the control room, you won't hear any audio from the built-in camera, video chat guests, pre-recorded videos, unless you're using headphones. And this prevents feedback loop on the Switcher device. And I always just itemize that out because it's easy to forget the things you've already heard or the things that, you know, maybe you even knew, but we want to just remember that. So use headphones if you want to be able to hear the audio from the control room. Number 3, if you see a black screen in video chat, relaunch the video chat room. This has happened to me several times. It actually kind of happens a lot. It feels like it anyway, that either I will get on the video chat or someone else will, and I don't see them. I just see a black screen. Maybe, and they've, you know, first things first, ask them if they've turned their camera on, if they selected a camera and that the camera's working and connected. But if that doesn't work, then have them get out of the chat room and back in, or maybe you need to relaunch the chat room. Okay. And always make sure that people are using Chrome if it's a desktop or laptop, and Safari if they're on an iOS device. And then number 4, always check the app for updates, just like any other app. And also check your iOS device for iOS updates. You always want to be running the best. Switcher Studio has recently come out with Switcher Studio 4, and it is specifically updated to run with the latest iOS, which is 13 point something, I don't know. Anyway, that all that information will be outdated by next week probably. So, but always make sure you have the newest updates, and always, always, always reboot your device after you do those updates, after you install those updates. Okay. And if you're having just a lot of glitches, reboot that device. The first 2 days after I had Switcher, everything just seemed to be going wrong. And you know, and it didn't even occur to me because I was so in that learning mode, like I don't know what I'm doing, and you know, the whole world is different. I don't know anything. I don't know who I am. You know, I only know the time and day because my phone is telling me. Then, oh, it's time to reboot both myself and the device. So just do that and all will be well. Okay, so we have a few minutes left and I'll just open it up again. Are there any questions or ideas? Anything that has come to mind?
I feel like you answered a lot of my questions today.
Awesome.
Solving a lot of my big questions that I was like,
Yeah. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Really glad to hear that.
I would really have loved this 2 weeks ago, because the switcher YouTubes were not helpful to me, because they taught from using an iPad, which I do not have.
I've noticed that too.
And you taught using my iPhone,
Yeah.
which was so much more simple. So thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
This has been more helpful than anything Switcher has done.
Good. Well, I noticed that too, that they're often doing from the iPad, and they're often for people who are just a little more tech, like assuming that people have a tech team and that it's a tech team that's running it. And so they're using multiple cameras. They've got, this whole, home studio set up, or they're in an actual studio. And that just it's hard to translate that for what most of us are doing.
Yeah, and it's totally different for churches, and it's usually one person doing it, and it's completely different. I stopped many of their videos, like, okay, forget you. I mean, I appreciate what they're doing, and for some people, it's really good, but it's,
Mm-hmm. Well, good. I'm glad that these are helpful, and I'll keep doing them. And I'm also like, I wish that I had this in 2 weeks ago too. And I've been doing this in real time as well. And, and I had to spend some time doing some research before I decided what to recommend to people, because I know in Unity that people are listening to what I'm recommending. And I know this isn't the only thing out there, and it's, it's specific to people who are running iOS devices. But it is so good that, to me, it was worth spending the time really focusing on this and getting it out there for those who can use it, because it is, to me, I don't know, at least what do you think? I say if you can run PowerPoint and create PowerPoint, you can run Switcher. Do you think that that's a fair, there's a learning curve and it's not always easy, but do you think that's a fair comparison now that you've
I don't know about comparing it to PowerPoint, but yeah, I would say that each week, I've done it for 2 Sundays now on Switcher. I've had different technical issues come up, but it's a learning curve.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling pretty comfortable today. This Sunday, I'm going to bring in a third guest. As far 2 guests, we have the middle plan, and I'm going to have a platform assistant, and we're going to practice. We're going to test today.
Nice.
And so yeah, it's just been a learning curve, and I have spent hours and hours and hours trying to figure out. Mostly it was my microphone issues, but yes, I have worked through those, and it has just been a whole new world.
Yeah, it has. And I really applaud you for stepping into it, and it is, and I will just caution again too, when you do the test with other people, to make sure that they know not to change any one thing between the time you test and the time you run it on Sunday. Can I get an amen, Val?
Amen.
Hallelujah and amen.
Not to change any one thing, because here's what'll happen. They'll test with you and they'll feel good and confident. They'll be like, well, that was easy. All I had to do was click the link, and there I was on camera, and Elise heard me, and I could see Elise, and everything was great. And then that night they'll get an idea. Well, you know what, if I go over to, my den or whatever, I'll have this really beautiful painting in the backdrop, and I have an outfit that matches it perfectly. So if I do that, then, or, it'd be cool if I listened to Facebook and I had it on so I could, see myself as and listen to the other people and see what's happening in real time. They've just changed so many factors and have basically ruined your test and made it, it wasn't a test. It wasn't a true test. So really drill in the message. Don't drill into people, but drill in the message that once you do the test, that's exactly how it has to be on Sunday. Or if they want to change something, you have to do a new test. So I just really want to give you that piece of advice. And there was one more thing about doing the test. You're bringing in people. time frame. Even after you've tested, I still bring people in at least 30 to 45 minutes before we go live, just in case there are any glitches or anything's going wrong. You have time before the service starts. Better for people to be sitting there waiting. They can sip some coffee. They don't have to even sit in front of the camera or computer, but you're connected and you're in that connected space for that amount of time. And it's a great time to do a pray-in. So Val.
Now, yeah, I did that last week. We started earlier, and then literally right as we were supposed to go live, video chat dropped them.
Oh my God.
I had, okay, and after the week before, I had a panic attack, but I was like, Val, chill out.
Yeah.
And I reconnected, and I said, we'll just be a couple minutes late.
Yeah.
It'll just be okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so good. And Elise demonstrated that too when she had the YouTube video that wasn't working. And you're saying the same thing. But when something like that goes wrong at the last minute, what we have to do is let go of the emotional piece of it and just go to solution mode and just step right back in through it. Go step 1, step 2, step 3. Launch video chat. Choose, make sure I've got the camera and the audio that I want. Type my name in. Hit join room. Go into the app. Join room. So the more you practice that and the more you do it, the more you've tested it, you've got those steps and you're just going right through those steps one by one, and it'll just become second nature, so that when something like that happens, it's never going to be a perfect world, unfortunately, in the world of Wi-Fi and digital things. But the more practiced you are, rehearsed you are, the more you'll be able to manage in real time when something goes wrong. And so I just look forward to the experiences for each of you, is that like stress and the like, sort of falls away. And it will, you'll get calmer, and it doesn't mean, I still discover new things all the time that I have no idea what to do, but I have enough experience that I can not freak out in the moment for the most part. Not that I don't get stressed. I've had where it was right up to the last moment. I was really sweating and really like working hard, and it's not my favorite way to work, but it does happen. So we just keep doing our best and keep staying present in the moment. And I think that's where our spiritual practice comes into play there too. Where you just breathe, let go of that emotional attachment and reaction, and just stay in the moment and present. Like, okay,
right.
I don't have video chat connected. What do I need to do? Launch video chat, join chat room, just go through every single step like that. So good. Okay. Well, that's the end of my presentation. We've got 4 minutes. So if there are any last questions or anything I didn't cover that you were hoping that I would cover, or that you want me to cover next time.
Do you know what the speed is? What speed is good for to like run an hour long on your Wi-Fi?
That's a great question. I don't know offhand, because there are so many other factors that go into it. But if you are, I have Google Fiber, so not to brag or anything, but
I'm running from your house.
Because the longer, like, I really love that you're bringing up for an hour long, because the longer you're running your stream, the more opportunity it is for there to be interference with it.
Yeah.
So you're going to really want to make sure you have something. And that's why I say to tell them that you're streaming gaming, because our kids are usually streaming gaming for a long time. And so they're going to get you the right speed for that. I would say a gigabyte up and down, but some people will be like, that's way too much. You don't even need that much. And some people are like, no, more. Either other factors too, if you're running from your laptop, or about the device itself, so how it's interpreting that, which is why there's the test option when you're testing your speed in Switcher, is so that you can see what the reality is, because the reality is usually different than what the promise is, because there's
right.
factors. And if you're on a subscription and internet provider that divides bandwidth between, like, among neighbors, which there are providers that do that, you're not actually getting what you're paying for, depending on how many other people around you are on at the same time. So there are so many factors built into that, Val. I I'm not really comfortable saying this is what you need, but talk to your provider and ask them
Okay.
these questions. Ask them if you're sharing your bandwidth with anyone else, and if that goes up and down with, with traffic, and tell them that you want to stream video games, and
Okay.
they'll make sure and get you what you need.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Great question. Elise, what's your next horizon with Switcher? What are you going to, well, you just said you're going to bring 2 people in on chat.
Yes, I'm welcoming in a platform assistant this week. I started to do it last week, but after having conversations with 2 of my platform assistants, which could not be present, I decided to just let it go and go for a ride. But I am going to do that this week. I was cognizant of your last presentation, which said it doesn't have to be an hour long.
Yeah.
And I've been contemplating on that. But this is Easter Sunday, and I want it to be extra special. I'm planning on, I created a private Facebook page for my members, and I was going to put a poll on there today about the service and just ask them, is it too long? And ask them different questions like that, so that I'm not the only one sitting over here trying to figure everything out.
That's great. I love it. And then, determine how much weight you're going to give that information, because as the minister, I think it's always your prerogative to create that experience. And it's not just for your current congregants, it's for potential congregants, right? You might, have new people coming in, but I think it's such important information to receive and to listen to, and it's information that will help you as you craft the experience for your people. So
exactly.
Awesome.
Yes, I've noticed that before this pandemic, we had a visioning workshop to learn how to think outside of the box and do things differently. And we had all these ideas, and we were working on integrating them, and then boom, the brakes got put on, and I'm like, oh my God. And now I'm on this. It's just crazy. Life is crazy, but it's all good.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Jackie, for creating these. This is, like I said earlier, this has been more helpful than anything Switcher has offered me. And I kept going back while I was in all of that, hearing you say, it's easy. There wasn't anything easy about it for me, but I'm not in your world. I'm not tech savvy. All of this is new to me. I had never done a Facebook Live before. I did one service live before Switcher, and I was the only person. And I felt like I needed to do everything, the announcements, the Christ candle, all that. And I'm really rethinking all of that after your last class, and just seeing what the future might look like.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I think it's a great question for all of us to ask. To really let go of that attachment to the building and what happens in the building. I think it's interesting to me to see how we will evolve through this in terms of how we create spiritual experiences. So I just really applaud you, Elise. And, and I know that, I was like, oh, it's easy. And part of that was like, just believe me, once you get through this learning curve, this is the best platform to be on in terms of what it offers you. And, but yes, there is a learning curve to it, and it's a lot to manage at one time, especially when you're trying to give a talk, and to hold that sacred space. It is a lot. So I truly, truly, from the bottom of my heart, applaud you and all of you who are listening to this recording later, for stepping into it and being willing to grow and stretch in this way. And it will get easier over time. I promise you that. So I'm going to stop the recording and, I'll send it through email today along with the document, and I'll keep building my own sort of makeshift Switcher Studio manual, and we'll create another tutorial, live one, and maybe some short videos to get you through in between. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.
Thank you.
Happy Easter.